So number one, obviously I can't be here without our amazing staff. I'd just like the Hillels of Georgia staff, if you all stand up, just be recognized, please. Thank you so much. So as many of you know, Hillels of Georgia is one of over 100 Hillels who are involved in a program called Measuring Excellence that is administered by Hillel International. And the process started that Hillel International, as well as each individual Hillel, want to know, what makes a good Hillel? It should be such an easy question and an easier answer. But I think this is one of the most complicated questions. If I ask you, what makes a good basketball player? Get the stats. What makes a good cookie company? We could go to an expert. But if you want to know what makes a good Hillel, it's really interesting that there's no ubiquitous message that almost all Hillels across the country or across the world are able to promulgate that says, this is what makes us great. And I found that personally troubling, and it really it leads to a problem that we don't know a lot of times what direction a Hillel is going in until you get there. So when Lauren, for example, moved from Detroit and came from Michigan State, the way that her Hillel is run has obviously some overlap with ours, but in a lot of areas we're completely different. So one of the things that I thought was the most important thing when I came on to Hillels of Georgia is to recognize that where are the points of excellence? And it's something that I joke about that a lot of times it's hard to identify until 20 years later if you're successful. When you're buying a stock or when you're investing in a company, it's so easy if you're hoping for a short-term gain to understand what success was. But we're in the long game. And we really are worried about continuity, and we're worried about perpetuating the Jewish people. So it's not as easy for us to identify. And even when I think about individual stories on campuses, it's so easy to identify. Lauren just told me a story the other day of a student who comes from a mixed family, namely one Jewish parent and a non-Jewish parent. And the student never came to a Seder her whole life. And Georgia Tech Seder not only was her first Seder, but she led the Seder after being inculcated with the necessary leadership and background of what takes place at a Seder. And to me, those stories are just mind-blowing. Like, this person is on a new trajectory in their life. They're going in a direction that if Hillel didn't exist, it wouldn't be the case. And one of the things that we have when I got here, was 5 pillars. And when you look at the 5 pillars, it's one of the aspects of how we understand our visioning, our leadership, and our mission. So for example, one of our pillars has always been Jewish programming. Jewish programming a lot of times will mean religious programming. And that's probably not the best definition of Jewish programming. Another aspect where when you look at it, it's easy to understand but hard to really think about at a deeper level was education. One of the issues with Hillels of Georgia, and I'd say across the board, is that a lot of times education, when it's outside of college campuses, gets outsourced to other organizations. In Atlanta, it will be specifically the Kol and Chabad. And depending on other organizations, it'll be, if you guys know, the Wolfson funding, it'll be funded nationally by Wolfson. And what happens is that if you care about Jewish education, and more specifically, if you want a pluralistic environment, an LGBT environment, an environment that is supportive of Israel across the board, that is not the case on all other organizations. So you really have to create that. So one thing that is just mind-blowing when you think about, 3 semesters ago, we decided that we're going to do a program called JLF, Jewish Learning Fellowship. It's run by Rabbi Eli right now. And around 3 weeks before the semester, we decided we're going to run this program because it was embarrassing that we weren't able to execute our mission, namely one of our pillars. Within 2 weeks, we got our team members together, recruited a cohort of, I guess, on 3 campuses, I think around 45 students. And this is one of the highest rated programs when we send surveys out. One of the easiest ways to know if a program is successful is, would you do the program again? Easy. Would you recommend it to your friends? If you would not recommend a program to your friends, it's a crap program. Right? Because obviously, who's going to go to it? So one of the best rated surveys that we send out is for Jewish Learning Fellowship. And so we did it 3 semesters ago, 45 people. This year, which I couldn't believe we found out that we were ready for this, 12% of the country. We were running 12% of the JLF education program at all Hillels in the country by our 3rd semester. You know why? Because when we see there's the right thing to do, we pounce. We recognize excellence and we jump as quickly as humanly possible to do that. We didn't have an education program, and now we have 12% of the whole freaking country. So and I think that's the key. You know, one of the things that it's hard. I recognize I do speak quickly sometimes, And while it's not always the best way to articulate oneself, I do think that those who wait for excellence are going to never get there. One of the most important aspects of Hillels, Georgia that we've really pushed is when we recognize new programs, we recognize new ideas, we don't wait the 10 years. We immediately jump onto that. And that's one of the most important things for going forward. As we are going into, I really think that this point in our organization, we're really transitioning. Michael has really been building up this program with our board, and I really think we're at a point where a lot of the vision is in place. We started with 7 staff, and now we've grown so much since I've been here, and we have the pieces in place to execute according to what we want. So now it's really about making sure that we identify best practices, we identify what we want to jettison immediately, and we identify those aspects that are the most important. And I think that's where our future is. Our future is to be, to quote the cliche, the best hill in the country, not because we want to be the best, because there's no other options. And I'm really looking forward to continuing on that path to ensure that we are putting forth our best foot, finding creativity wherever it is, and most importantly, to make sure that we are able to execute at the level that we'd be proud of as an organization.